The Welcome to Arden Hills sign was exactly as I'd left it 5 years ago, peeling green paint, a cheerful font that felt like a lie. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. The town smelled like damp leaves and memories I'd tried to bury. Every picturesque street, every charming storefront felt like a beautifully decorated cage. 5 years in Charlotte had been a sprint. I'd built a career, a life, and a spine. Now, Thanksgiving was forcing me back, a mandatory pilgrimage to a home that hadn't felt like mine since I was a teenager. I parked in the long, familiar driveway of the Pennington house. The one Roland always bragged was built on tradition. I cut the engine. For a long minute, I just sat, the silence ringing in my ears. The front door was oak, imposing, and I suddenly felt 16 again, small and desperate for an approval that never came. "You can do this, Clarissa," I muttered. "It's just 3 days." I grabbed my overnight bag from the passenger seat and stepped out. The air was colder here, or maybe that was just me. I walked up the stone path, my sensible heels clicking in anxious rhythm. I didn't bother with the bell, using the key that still hung on my ring, a relic of a belonging I no longer felt. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. I stepped into the foyer. The scent of cinnamon and roasting turkey hit me immediately, a familiar, weaponized comfort. It was the smell of every holiday where I'd been overlooked, every dinner where I'd been talked over. "I'm here," I called out, my voice echoing slightly in the grand hallway. The grandfather clock ticked, each second landing like a judgment. Mom, Matilda, emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron that was probably worth more than my first car. "Clarissa, you made it." Her hug was a brief, papery brush of shoulders, an obligation performed. Her eyes were already scanning past me, back toward the kitchen. "Traffic was terrible, I assume?" "It was fine, Mom." Good. I'm just frantic. The caterers are late with the pies." She was already turning away, her duty done. "Your father's in the study. Go say hello. Don't track in any leaves." She disappeared. I was left alone in the hallway, my bag still in my hand. The walls were lined with the family's history, a gallery of achievements that didn't include me. Leo's football trophies, Leo's debate medals, a large framed photo of Leo and my parents at his college graduation, beaming. My own graduation photo was in a small silver frame on a side table, partially obscured by a vase. I took a deep breath, dropped my bag by the stairs, and headed toward the study. The heavy mahogany door was just slightly ajar. I heard Roland's voice before I saw him, that deep, authoritative rumble that always made my stomach clench. "And I'm telling you, Matilda, she isn't worth a dime." My hand froze, hovering over the brass doorknob. My blood went cold, a sudden, shocking ice in my veins. I must have misheard. I had to have. I leaned closer, my ear inches from the gap. "Roland, lower your voice." Matilda's voice was a sharp hiss. "She'll be here any minute. She probably just pulled in." "I don't care if she hears me," Roland snapped. "It's the truth. She's not seeing a penny of the estate, not 1 cent. We're funneling it all to Leo's venture. It's a lot, Roland. Are you sure his app is the one?" "Absolutely. The man's a genius. This is going to revolutionize the entire industry. What has Clarissa ever done? She calls from Charlotte asking for handouts, disappears for 5 years, and thinks she can just waltz in here." I stopped listening. The warmth from the kitchen, the scent of cinnamon, it all evaporated, leaving a hollow, arctic void in my chest. Handouts? I'd asked for a small loan once, 7 years ago, for a security deposit. A loan I'd paid back with interest in 3 months. My throat tightened. I felt dizzy, my entire childhood rearranging itself into a new, horrific picture. The clock ticked. Liar, fool, liar. I'd spent my life thinking I was just less than, less charismatic, less brilliant, less loved than my brother. It wasn't that I was less loved. It was that I wasn't loved at all. I was just a line item they'd already zeroed out. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen. It could have been 10 seconds or 10 minutes. The muffled sound of Matilda leaving the study and heading to the kitchen snapped me back. My body moved on autopilot. I pushed the door open, the hinges groaning softly. The smile I plastered on my face felt like a cheap mask, brittle and cracking. "Hi, Dad. I'm here." Roland was behind his massive desk, a fortress of polished mahogany. He looked up, his expression of irritation instantly melting into one of practiced, shallow pleasure. "There she is. Clarissa, come in, come in." He stood but didn't come around the desk. He just waited for me to cross the room and accept his one-armed, awkward hug. It smelled of expensive cologne and deceit. "Good trip?" he asked, already sitting back down, his eyes drifting to the stock ticker on his monitor. "Not bad," I lied. The traffic had been agonizing, a 4-hour crawl, but they didn't want the real answer. They never did. The old town looks the same. Tradition, Clarissa, stability, that's what matters. He gestured vaguely toward the door. "Go put your things away. Dinner's at 7. Leo and his family will be here soon. We have a lot to celebrate." At dinner, the table was groaning with food I suddenly had no appetite for. Leo and his wife, Jessica, were there, their 2 kids making a racket at the other end. The conversation was, as always, a monologue delivered by Roland, starring Leo. And the venture capitalists, Clarissa, they were practically throwing money at him, Roland boomed, raising his wine glass. "They see what I've always seen. Vision, drive." "It's really something, Dad," Leo murmured, looking slightly embarrassed but soaking it in. "We're just so proud," Matilda cooed, patting Leo's arm. I saw my opening, a tiny pause as Roland took a sip of wine. My hand, which had been trembling in my lap, I placed on the table. The diamond on my ring finger, the one from Daniel, caught the light of the chandelier. "That's wonderful news, Leo. Really," I said, my voice sounding unnaturally high. "I actually have some news, too. Daniel proposed last month." I waited. The table went silent for a half-second. Roland set his glass down. He hadn't even glanced at my hand. "That's nice, sweetheart. Did Leo tell you about the new server architecture they're implementing? It's revolutionary. He's poaching talent from Google, for God's sake." My announcement hung in the air, unacknowledged, and then simply evaporated. It hadn't happened. My news, my life, my future, it was invisible to him. The warmth I'd felt when Daniel proposed, the joy I'd been hoarding for this moment, it just collapsed. A punctured balloon, a tiny dead thing. "Wow, Dad, that's really something," I managed, pulling my hand back into my lap. The ring suddenly felt heavy, a stupid, useless piece of glass. "It's more than something, Clarissa. It's the future," Roland said dismissively. "The boy is a natural, a true Pennington." Matilda, at least, had noticed. Her eyes flicked down to my hand, then back to my face. A small, tight smile played on her lips. "Oh, a ring." "How nice for you," she said, her tone the one you use for a child who just showed you a drawing of a lopsided house. Before I could even respond, she pushed her chair back. "Clarissa, be a dear and help me in the kitchen. I forgot the cranberry sauce." I followed her, my feet feeling like lead. In the kitchen, she handed me a bowl and a spoon. "Just stir that, will you? It needs to be transferred." I stirred the red, gelatinous sauce. Round and round. I was fighting back tears, a hot acidic stinging behind my eyes. "So, an engagement," she said, not looking at me, her voice light and condescending. "He's that doctor, isn't he? The one from Charlotte?" "Yes," I said, my voice tight. "Daniel. He's a pediatric surgeon." Well, that's practical." She reached past me for a ladle. "Did you hear what your father said about Leo's funding? $3 million. After all the years we supported that boy, all his little projects, we just always knew he was going to make something incredible of himself." The ladle clanked against the pot. The unspoken words hung in the air between us, thick and toxic. "Unlike you. The spoon in my hand paused. I stared into the bowl. That was it. That was the moment. A tiny crack, something deep in the foundation of my life, just split open. It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't me being too sensitive, as she'd always claimed. This was real. They were thieves. They hadn't just stolen my brother's spotlight. They had actively, purposefully stolen mine and handed it to him over and over my entire life. "That's wonderful for him, Mom," I said. My voice was different. Quiet. Cold. I handed her the bowl. "I think I left my charger in the car. Excuse me." I walked out of the kitchen, past the dining room, through the foyer, and right out the front door into the freezing night air. I didn't go to my car. I just walked to the end of the driveway and stood under a streetlight, breathing. The mask was gone, and I knew, with a terrible, sickening certainty, exactly what I had to do. Sleep was impossible. I lay in the guest room bed, the floral wallpaper I'd loathed since childhood seeming to press in on me. The digital clock on the nightstand flipped to 2:17 a.m. Roland's words replayed in my head, a vicious loop. She's not seeing a penny, not worth a dime, funneling it all to Leo. It wasn't just dismissal. It was financial. It was calculated. A cold, methodical calm settled over me. The hurt was still there, a raw wound, but something else was covering it, an icy, focused rage. I slipped out of bed, the hardwood floor cold against my feet. My laptop was in my overnight bag. I sat at the small desk, the blue glow of the screen illuminating the room. I logged into my bank portal. "Let's see the handouts, Dad," I whispered. I opened a new spreadsheet. I started with my oldest archived statements, 8 years ago. It began as curiosity, a desperate need to prove myself wrong, but within 20 minutes, it transformed into a sickening investigation. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I wasn't just an analyst, I was an archaeologist digging up the bones of my own financial history. Each transaction told a story I had been willfully blind to. June 2017, transfer, $5,000. Purpose, family emergency, roof repair. I cross-referenced the date. That was the month Leo quit his job to find himself and travel through Europe. March 2019, transfer, $8,000. Purpose, Mom's medical bills. I remembered that. A frantic call from Roland about Matilda needing specialist tests that insurance wouldn't cover. I just received my first big bonus. 2 days after my transfer, I found a social media post from Leo, thanking his parents for investing in the seed money for his first failed app. December 2021. Transfer, $12,000. Purpose, property tax shortfall. I'd sold stock for that. I'd believed them. I'd felt guilty for even questioning it. On and on it went. Small amounts, large amounts. $500 here for a utility bill, $3,000 there for a dental emergency. Each one came with a promise of repayment that never materialized. Each one was framed as a temporary crisis. By 4:30 a.m., the spreadsheet was a monument to their deception. The total was nauseating. 50 centimi, $600. I stared at the number. 50 centimi, $600. I thought about the car I'd kept for 10 years because I couldn't afford a new one. The tiny apartment I'd lived in to save money, the vacations I'd never taken, the constant grinding anxiety about my finances that I'd blamed on myself, on my poor budgeting. It was all a lie. I hadn't been budgeting. I'd been subsidizing my brother's life. A memory surfaced, sharp and painful. Grandmother Evelyn, her funeral 4 years ago. She had always seen me. "Don't let them mistake your self-sufficiency for permission to ignore you, Clarissa," she'd told me, her hand gripping mine. She had left me a specific bequest, $2,500. "For your future, my girl, don't let them touch it." I opened my email. I searched my archives for Evelyn Monroe Estate. The emails from Roland popped up. "Just some insurance paperwork, Clarissa," he'd written. "Lawyer needs it signed for the release of funds. Just formalities." I'd been grieving. I'd been packing up her house. I'd signed the digital documents without reading them. I clicked the PDF attachment. It loaded pixel by agonizing pixel. It wasn't an insurance form, it was a loan guarantee. My signature clear as day, authorizing Roland to borrow against my inheritance portion, using it as collateral for one of Leo's business loans, a loan that had, of course, defaulted. The document listed the $10,500 not as a bequest, but as a family allocation to Pennington Developments. He hadn't just let me be ignored. He had actively stolen my grandmother's last gift. He had used my grief against me. The trembling in my hands wasn't from sadness anymore. It was pure, unadulterated fury. I worked for another hour, the sky outside turning a bruised pre-dawn purple. My spreadsheet was 9 pages long, a meticulous, undeniable ledger of betrayal, complete with dates, transfer IDs, and links to the lying emails. I hit print. The old inkjet printer in the guest room whirred to life, a shockingly loud noise in the silent house. I needed a hard copy. I needed to see it, to feel the paper in my hands. The 9 pages slid out one by one. I held them. The weight was immense. This was it. This was my proof. My throat was raw. I needed water. I placed the stack of papers squarely in the center of the desk, next to my open, glowing laptop. I crept out of the room, down the hall, and into the dark kitchen. I stood at the sink, gulping down cold water, my mind racing. How would I do this? A breakfast confrontation? A private meeting? A floorboard creaked upstairs. Not from the guest room, from the master bedroom. A chill ran down my spine. I stayed perfectly still. Another creak on the landing. Then footsteps, soft, descending the stairs. I ducked into the pantry, my heart hammering against my ribs. The pantry door was louvered, giving me a sliver of a view. It was Roland. He was in his silk robe. He wasn't heading to the kitchen. He was heading to the hall toward the guest room. He must have heard the printer. He paused at the doorway, looked in, and then stepped inside. I held my breath. I heard a soft thud as he sat at the desk. Clarissa, what have you done? I heard him whisper. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. I heard the rustle of paper. He was reading it. He was reading my evidence. I had to move. I had to get back there. But before I could take a step, he stood up. He walked out of the room, holding the 9 pages in his hand. He went straight to the fireplace in the main living room, crumpled my entire investigation, and tossed it onto the cold embers. He then pulled out a lighter, sparked it, and lit the corner of the top page. The fire caught, blooming bright orange. He watched it burn, watched every single page turn to black, curling ash. My evidence, my proof, gone. My stomach dropped. But the laptop. The file was still on the laptop. As if reading my mind, Roland walked back to the guest room. I watched, horrified, as he sat at my desk again. His fingers moved on my keyboard. He knew my password. Of course he did. He probably installed a keylogger. I heard a series of clicks. He was navigating my hard drive. He found the file. No, I breathed. He highlighted it. He didn't just delete it. He dragged it to a secure wipe utility I recognized from my own finance work. He entered another password. A prompt appeared. Are you sure you want to permanently erase this file? He clicked, yes. He stood up, closed my laptop, and walked calmly back up the stairs. The fire in the living room crackled, consuming the last of the paper. I was left in the dark pantry, shaking, with nothing. He knew I knew, and he had just destroyed my entire case, my only hard copy, my only file. He had just declared war. I didn't breathe until I heard his bedroom door click shut upstairs. I stumbled out of the pantry, my legs weak. I ran to the guest room. The desk was empty. The laptop was closed, deceptively peaceful. I opened it. The screen was blank. The file was gone. I checked the recycling bin. I checked my temp files. Nothing. Wiped. Clean. He was a monster. a calm, methodical monster. My overnight bag was on the floor. I didn't think. I just moved. I threw my laptop into the bag. I grabbed my toiletries from the bathroom, my shoes from the closet. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely zip the bag. He thought he'd won. He thought he'd erased it, and I'd just... What? Stay for Thanksgiving breakfast? Pretend it never happened? Let him gaslight me? No. I grabbed my purse, my keys. I didn't care about the leaves on the floor. I slid my feet into my shoes, not bothering with the laces. I walked down the hall, past the living room where the last of my evidence smoldered in the fireplace. I walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped out into the freezing pre-dawn air. I didn't close the door gently. I pulled it shut, and the thud of the deadbolt catching echoed in the silent street. I ran to my car, threw my bag in, and started the engine. The headlights cut through the darkness. I jammed the car into reverse, squealing out of the driveway. I didn't look back. I just drove. I was driving back to Charlotte, back to safety. I was driving away from Arden Hills, and I knew with absolute certainty I was never, ever coming back. The drive to Charlotte was a 5-hour blur of adrenaline and hot, angry tears. I didn't just cry. I sobbed, ugly, gasping sobs that tore at my throat. I had to pull over twice, blinded by the sheer scale of the betrayal. It wasn't just the money. It was the handouts narrative he'd crafted, the mental breakdown he was already planning. He'd burned the evidence. He was going to paint me as unstable, as jealous, as a liar. And without that file, it was my word against his. I got to Charlotte as the sun was rising, painting the sky a sickly, pale yellow. I didn't go to my apartment. I couldn't. I was terrified he had access to that, too. I went to Mason's. Mason Cole was everything Daniel hadn't been: solid, calm, unwavering. He was a data security analyst, and he lived his life with firewalls. I'd met him 6 months ago, after Daniel and I had amicably flamed out over his inability to see me as an equal. I used my key to Mason's apartment and stumbled in. He was in the kitchen, making coffee, already dressed for work. He took one look at my face, my tear-streaked, puffy, ruined face, and the coffee mug paused halfway to his lips. "Clarissa, what in God's name happened? I thought you were in Arden Hills until Sunday." I tried to speak, but all that came out was a strangled gasp. I dropped my bag and my legs just gave out. I collapsed right there in his entryway. He didn't panic. He just set the mug down, crossed the room in 2 strides, and knelt, wrapping his arms around me. He didn't pepper me with questions. He just held me. "I've got you," he said, his voice a low rumble. "You're safe. Just breathe. I've got you." I clung to him, and the whole story came pouring out. The overheard conversation, the midnight audit, the 50/7600, the stolen inheritance. And the worst part, the fire, the printer, the wiped laptop. "He took it all, Mason. He burned the paper and he wiped the file. He knew my password. He wiped it all. I have nothing." Mason's embrace tightened. When I finally pulled back, his expression wasn't one of pity. It was cold, hard fury. The kind of anger you feel for someone you love. "Nothing? Clarissa, you are the evidence. You lived it." He stood and pulled me to my feet. "But you're right. He declared war. So we're going to build a fortress." The next 48 hours were a blur of methodical defensive action. Mason went into full analyst mode. "First, your laptop is compromised. We don't touch it. It's evidence of his crime now, tampering." He placed it in an anti-static bag and locked it in his personal safe. He handed me a brand new encrypted laptop, still in the box. "This is yours. New passwords for everything. And I mean everything. Use a generator." No birthdays, no pet names, nothing he can guess. We sat at his dining table. For hours, I changed every password I had. Bank accounts, email, social media, utilities, even my grocery store rewards card. "He's a financial advisor," Mason said, pacing. He doesn't just guess passwords, Clarissa. He knows systems. We have to assume he has backdoors everywhere. He got on the phone with my bank. My fiancée, Clarissa Pennington, needs to report unauthorized access to her accounts, he said, his voice pure steel. We are opening new accounts, transferring all funds, and placing a permanent fraud alert and a credit freeze. Yes, permanent. The password for any changes will be... He muted the phone, gave me a pen, and had me write a 20-character password he couldn't see. While I was on the phone with the credit bureaus, freezing everything, Mason was setting up a new, secure email for me. A new phone number. You're going dark, he said, handing me the new phone. New. Your old life, the one he had access to, is over. As of right now, you are a ghost. The panic started to recede, replaced by that same cold, methodical rage I'd felt in the guest room. But now, I wasn't alone. He destroyed my file, Mason, my spreadsheet. It took me hours. So we rebuild it, he said simply, from memory. And this time, we don't just look at your bank. We look at Leo's. He pulled up a chair. Start from the beginning. Every date you remember, every amount, every lie he told you. We'll build a new file. And this one, he said, tapping the encrypted hard drive, this one doesn't burn. I worked all day. Mason sat with me, refilling my coffee, ordering food, and acting as a sounding board. By evening, we had rebuilt the core of the spreadsheet. It was missing the exact transfer IDs, but the dates and amounts were there, burned into my memory. It's not enough, I said, rubbing my temples. It's still just my word. He'll say I'm unstable. He'll say I'm jealous of Leo. It's a start, Mason said. It's the skeleton. Now we need the muscle. And for that, we need a lawyer, a shark, not some small-town hack. I know one, I said. Juliana Marlowe, the toughest contract lawyer in Charlotte. I'd seen her tear a vendor to shreds in a negotiation. But Mason, I can't stay in Charlotte. He knows where I live. He knows where I work. The thought of walking into my office, of him showing up, of my colleagues hearing Roland's crazy daughter narrative, it made me sick. I need to disappear, I said. He thinks he's beaten me. He thinks I'm probably crying in my apartment, waiting to beg for forgiveness. So let him think that, Mason said. What's your move? Your real move? I thought of Laura Bradford, my old boss, my mentor, before she'd moved to take a VP role at a firm in Baltimore. She'd been trying to recruit me for a year. I'm going to take the job, I said, the words tasting like freedom. The senior director position in Baltimore. When? Now. I picked up my new, clean phone. I found her number. My heart was pounding, but my hand was steady. She picked up on the second ring. Clarissa? What a surprise. Are you finally ready to leave that mid-level firm behind? Laura, I said, my voice clear and strong. I'm sorry for calling on a weekend, but is that senior director position still open? There was a pause. For you? It's always open. I've been holding it, but Clarissa, what's wrong? I can't talk about it now, but I need to leave Charlotte. I need a clean break, and I need to start immediately. Done, Laura said, no hesitation. HR will have an offer letter in your email by morning. Sign it and you can start next week. I'll run interference. You just get here. Thank you, Laura. You have no idea. We take care of our own, Clarissa. Welcome to Baltimore. I hung up. I looked at Mason. He was smiling. A real proud smile. Baltimore, I said. Baltimore, he agreed. Now let's call that lawyer. And then we're going to find you an apartment, a high-security one. I felt a spark, the first one since I'd smelled the smoke from that fireplace. He'd wanted to erase me. Instead, he'd just given me a head start. I spent the next 2 days liquidating my life in Charlotte. Mason was a machine. He arranged for movers, put my apartment on a sublet, and handled the termination of my lease. I forwarded my offer letter to Juliana Marlowe, my new attorney. This is good, Juliana said over a secure call. It shows proactive, sane decision-making, the opposite of the breakdown narrative he's going to push. Now, you need one more thing before you leave. What? You need to confront them. You need to go back. Are you insane? I snapped. He destroyed my evidence. He's dangerous. And you need to get his reaction on record, Juliana said, her voice sharp. I need a witness to his denial or his threats. You're going to go back. You're going to make your accusation clearly, and you're going to do it in front of the whole family. His power comes from isolating you. Don't let him. She was right. I hated that she was right. So the next morning, I drove back to Arden Hills. I didn't have my spreadsheet. I didn't have the burned pages. I just had the truth. I parked on the street, not in the driveway. I walked up the path and used my key. It was 8:30 a.m. I could smell coffee and bacon. They were having breakfast. I walked straight into the dining room. Roland, Matilda, and Leo were all at the table, mid-bite. They froze. Roland recovered first, his face darkening. Clarissa, you left. Your mother was worried sick. Was she? I said. I walked to the table and stood at the head of it. Clarissa, what is this? Matilda said, her hand fluttering to her pearls. You look terrible. I know what you did, I said. My voice was low and it didn't shake. Roland put his coffee cup down. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about the 50 Centavalley $600 you stole from me over the last 8 years. Leo's fork clattered onto his plate. Matilda gasped, a practiced theatrical sound. I'm talking about the family emergencies that were just cash infusions for Leo's startups. I'm talking about the $10,500 from grandmother Evelyn's inheritance that you, Roland, forged my signature to steal. I looked at each of them. Matilda was pale. Leo looked utterly confused. Roland looked bored. It was a terrifying, calculated performance. And I'm talking about you, I said, pointing at my father, hearing my printer at 4 a.m., stealing my 9-page report, burning it in the fireplace, and then using my password to wipe the file from my laptop. Roland slowly, deliberately folded his napkin and placed it on the table. He stood up. I knew it, he said, his voice dripping with paternal disappointment. I knew this was coming. You what? I was stunned. Your jealousy of your brother has finally, completely broken your mind, he said, his voice rising. You come in here after disappearing in the middle of the night and you invent these fantasies? These vile accusations? They're not accusations, I yelled, my control cracking. I saw the bank statements. I saw the loan guarantee. I saw you burn the pages. You saw me burn what? A stack of internet nonsense you printed? He sneered. Clarissa, you need help. Your mother and I, we're worried sick. You've been under so much stress in Charlotte. This was his move, the crazy card. He was playing it right here, right now. Don't you dare, I whispered, my voice trembling with rage. Don't you dare do this. Do what? Care about my daughter? He turned to Matilda. Matilda, call Dr. Evans. She needs to be seen. She's clearly having a breakdown. I am not having a breakdown. Matilda stood, her face a mask of practiced, agonizing concern. Clarissa, darling, please stop this. You're frightening us. We paid for your education. We gave you everything. How can you say these things? My scholarships paid for my education, I shot back. The lie was so old, so ingrained, I'd almost forgotten it. My academic scholarships? You know that. You complained about having to attend the awards ceremony because it was on the same day as Leo's football banquet. Matilda flinched, a direct hit. She hadn't expected me to remember that. That's not true, she whispered, but her eyes darted to Roland. Enough! Roland roared, slamming his hand on the table. The silverware jumped. You will apologize to your mother. You will stop this hysterical, jealous fantasy, and you will go upstairs and pack. I'm taking you to a clinic. I'm not going anywhere with you, I said, my voice ice again. I pulled 3 clean, empty manila folders from my bag. I'd brought them on Juliana's advice. I threw them on the table, one in front of each of them. Roland, Matilda, Leo. That's my evidence, I said. It's empty. Because you, Roland, are a coward and a thief who destroys evidence in the middle of the night. But I'm rebuilding it, and next time, it won't be on a piece of paper you can burn. Leo, who had been silent this whole time just staring at his plate, finally looked up. His face was ashen. What $57,000? He asked, his voice cracking. What inheritance? Stay out of this, Leo, Roland snapped. Your sister is unwell. No, Leo pushed his chair back. He looked at me, his eyes wide and panicked. What are you talking about, Clarissa? What startups? The $8,000 for Mom's medical bills in 2019? That was your seed money, Leo. The $12,000 for property taxes in 2021. That was for your server costs. Leo looked at Roland. Dad, is that true? You told me that was from refinancing the lake house. It's family money, Leo. It doesn't matter, Roland yelled. It's all the same pot. It wasn't your pot, I yelled back. It was mine. You stole from me to give to him. Leo staggered back, looking at our parents with a new, dawning horror. You lied to me? You used her money for me? We invested in you, Leo, Matilda said, her voice turning sharp. Something she never understood. We supported our family. You used me, I said. You used me as your personal secret bank. And you, I said to Leo, you were just as blind as I was. But I'm done. I'm done being the family ATM, and I'm done being the family scapegoat. I turned, my bag in my hand. I've frozen my credit, I announced to the stunned room. My lawyer, Juliana Marlowe, has been notified. All my accounts are new and you have no access. You will never get another dime from me. I walked to the foyer. Where are you going? Matilda cried, following me. Clarissa, don't be so dramatic. You can't just leave. I'm moving, I said, my hand on the doorknob. I've taken a new job, senior finance director in Baltimore. I start Monday. The color drained from her face. Baltimore? But that's across the country. What about Christmas? What about the holidays? I turned to look at her, her face crumpled in a mask of selfish, performative grief. For the first time in my life, Mom, I said, what about me? I opened the front door and walked out. I didn't look back. I got in my car, and as I pulled away, I saw all 3 of them standing on the front steps, frozen. Roland's face was purple with rage. Matilda was weeping, and Leo just looked broken. I pointed my car toward the highway. Next stop, Baltimore. My new life. 6 weeks later, I was a different person. My apartment in Baltimore was a fortress. It was a sterile, modern high-rise on the 30th floor with a 24-hour doorman, key fob elevators, and 3 deadbolts on the door. It was the antithesis of the sprawling, open-door prison in Arden Hills. Mason had moved with me. He'd found a better-paying data security job in Baltimore within a week. Where you go, I go, he'd said. Besides, I like a city with better firewalls. Our apartment was spare, but it was ours. My job at the new firm was a life raft. My boss, Laura Bradford, had been a true shield. On my first day, she'd called me into her office. I don't need the details, Clarissa, she said, handing me a coffee. I can guess. Family, money, and betrayal. I've seen it. Your entire professional life is firewalled. All calls come through my admin. Your office address is not listed. No one gets to you through me without your explicit permission. Got it? Got it, I'd said, my throat thick with gratitude. Thank you, Laura. Don't thank me. Just be the brilliant analyst I hired you to be. I was in therapy twice a week with Dr. Price, a sharp woman who specialized in complex family trauma. What you're describing, she said in our second session, is a classic narcissistic family system. Roland is the ringleader, Matilda is the enabler, and Leo is the golden child. You were cast as the scapegoat. Your only crime was being self-sufficient. They saw that as a resource to be plundered. Hearing it named, clinically, was like a balm. I wasn't crazy. I was a victim. And now, I was a survivor. Mason and I, with Juliana's guidance, were meticulously rebuilding the case. But without the original file, it was slow. We had my bank statements showing the withdrawals, but proving where they went was harder. We need a direct link, Juliana said over a conference call. Right now, it's just a stack of withdrawals. We need the deposits into their accounts, and we need that loan guarantee. Without it, the inheritance theft is hearsay. I was digging, but I was also healing, until the attack began. Roland had regrouped. He'd realized I wasn't coming back, crawling and apologizing, so he launched his counteroffensive. It came in 4 distinct phases. Phase 1, the guilt. It started with emails from Matilda. The subject line was always, please, or your family. Catherine, I haven't slept since you left. Your father is devastated. He's so hurt by your accusations. After everything we've sacrificed, how could you repay us with this cruelty? Please come home. We can talk this out. Whatever confusion has caused this, we can fix it. I saved each one to a folder labeled Evidence Phase 1 and sent it to Juliana. I never replied. Phase 2, the gaslighting. A week later, I got a call at my new unlisted office number. It sent a bolt of ice through me. My admin buzzed me. Clarissa, there's a Mr. Timothy Barnett on the line. He says he's an old friend of your father's. I motioned for her to put him through. Clarissa, Tim Barnett. I'm an old friend of your father's. We play golf. Listen, he's worried sick about you. He told me you've been under significant stress, maybe not thinking clearly. He only wants what's best for you, kiddo. Why don't you give him a call, and we can all smooth this over? Mr. Barnett, I said, my voice arctic. You are calling my place of business. This is a private family matter. If you ever contact me here or anywhere else, again, you will be included in the harassment claim I am building against your friend. Goodbye. I slammed the phone down. I was shaking. He was activating his network. Phase 3, the flying monkeys. The calls to my new private cell phone started. They must have gotten the number from Leo. First, cousin Sabrina. Clarissa. Oh, thank God, we've all been so worried. Your mom says you had some kind of breakdown. Are you okay? Are you in a safe place? Then, Uncle Patrick. A voicemail. Clarissa, it's your uncle. I don't know what this fight is about, but your father says you're throwing away your inheritance over some misunderstanding. Don't be a fool. Call your parents. I saved the voicemails. I blocked the numbers. Phase 4, the public smear campaign. This was Matilda's move. She started posting throwback photos of me as a child, missing my daughter today, praying she finds peace and healing from the stress she's under. Family is everything. You always come home in the end. We're waiting for you, Clarissa. The comments were a chorus of her friends. Oh, Matilda, I'm praying for you. I hope she gets the help she needs. Young professionals burn out so fast. She's lucky to have you. It was brilliant. It was vicious. He was building his case in public. I was unstable. I was sick. I was the problem. I was the crazy, jealous daughter. And he was the worried, loving father. I screenshotted every post, every comment. They're following the narcissist's playbook to the letter, Juliana said, reviewing the file. Denial, gaslighting, recruitment of allies, and then the public smear. They're trying to discredit you before you can even file. Will it work? I asked, my stomach churning. Not if we get the proof. But Clarissa, they're escalating. Fast. You need to be ready. The escalation arrived the next morning via certified mail to my new, secure apartment. It was a thick envelope from Huxley and Associates, Roland's high-priced legal firm. My hands trembled as I signed for it. Mason was at work. I was alone. I opened it. The language was dense and threatening. This firm represents Mr. and Mrs. Roland Pennington. It has come to our attention that you, Clarissa Pennington, have been making false, defamatory, and slanderous statements to multiple parties regarding alleged financial improprieties. It was a cease and desist. You are hereby ordered to cease and desist all communications, written or oral, regarding these fabricated events. Should you fail to comply, Mr. Pennington is prepared to pursue significant legal consequences, including, but not limited to, suits for defamation, libel, and emotional distress. I had to read it 3 times. He was threatening to sue me, the victim. I sank onto my couch, the letter rattling in my hand. This was the move of a man with no fear, a man who knew he'd burned the evidence, a man who thought I was a hysterical girl with no proof and no spine. He was wrong. I picked up my phone, took a clear picture of every page, and emailed it to Juliana. Subject: they're threatening me. Body: this arrived 10 minutes ago. What's our next move? Her reply came back in less than 5 minutes. Subject: they're threatening me. Body: good. He's scared. He's overplaying his hand. Now he has a public record of trying to silence you. Stay calm. I'm handling this. Do not reply to them. I closed my laptop. My heart was pounding, but I felt a strange, cold resolve. He thought this would scare me into submission. He had no idea who I was anymore. That evening, my phone rang. A blocked number. Usually I'd ignore it, but Juliana had told me to document everything. I let it go to voicemail. A few seconds later, a text came through, also from a blocked, spoofed number. See, it's me, Elle. I need to talk to you. I'm on a burner. Please pick up. It's important. Leo. My hands were shaking again, but for a different reason. I called the number back. He picked up instantly. Clarissa. His voice was a raw whisper. Leo, what is this? Are you part of their campaign now? Did they send you to cry to me? No, God, no, he said, and his voice cracked. See, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know. You didn't know? You didn't wonder where the tens of thousands of dollars were coming from, Leo? He told me it was his retirement. He told me he'd refinanced. I believed him. I'm an idiot, but I'm not them. What do you want, Leo? I said, my voice flat. I confronted him, he whispered. After you left, I went to his office. I demanded to see the accounts. He threatened me, see. He told me if I sided with you, he'd cut me off. He'd tell my investors I was unstable. He tried to play the crazy card on me. Welcome to the club, Leo. But it's worse than you think, he said, and I heard him take a shuddering breath. It's not just your $57,000. It's not just the inheritance. He did something else, something recent, and it's big. My blood went cold. What did he do? I couldn't sleep, Leo said, his voice rushing out. I've been a ghost in that house. I knew his office safe combination. I've known it since I was a kid. I waited until they were asleep, and I went in. Leo, don't... I found a file, Clarissa, a file for Pennington Developments. I thought it was my app, but it's not. It's a different LLC, and, oh God, see, he took out a loan 3 months ago, an $85,000 business loan. So, he's a businessman. He takes loans. He took it out in your name, Leo whispered. Your name, your social security number. He forged your signature. I know your signature. I've seen it my whole life, and I know his. He signed your name, but it's his handwriting. I collapsed onto the couch. $85,000. Identity theft. A federal crime. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was a felony. $85,000, I whispered. He's been siphoning it, paying his country club dues, paying for God knows what. It's all in the file, and he's letting it default. It's going to destroy your credit. He's planning to ruin you, Clarissa, to prove you're unstable and financially incompetent. It was the final piece, the breakdown narrative, the smear campaign. It was all a setup. He was going to let the loan default, and when the collectors came for me, he would tell everyone, "See, I told you she was sick. I told you she was irresponsible." "Leo," I said, my voice shaking with a new, terrifying rage. "I need that file. I need it now." "I'm ahead of you," he said. I scanned every page. "It's in a secure, encrypted zip file. Where can I send it?" I gave him the new, clean email address Mason had set up. "It's coming," he said. "See, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He's a monster." "Yes, he is," I said. "Thank you, Leo. You just saved my life." "No," he said, his voice thick. "I'm just trying to save mine." He hung up. A minute later, an email dinged. Subject, the smoking gun. I opened it, and there it was. The loan application, the forged signature, the bank statements showing the $85,000. "Checkmate, Dad," I whispered. I forwarded the entire zip file to Juliana Marlowe. Her reply was almost instantaneous. Subject, the smoking gun. Body, holy, God, they're done. He's done. Sit tight. I'm changing the entire game plan. We are no longer on the defensive. We are attacking. The next morning, I went to work feeling powerful. The fear was gone. The dread was gone. I had him. The cease and desist was a joke. The smear campaign was a pathetic, dying gasp. I was in my office, buried in a quarterly report, when my desk phone buzzed. It was the front desk security. "Ms. Pennington, this is Marcus at the front desk." His voice was tense. "There is a woman here, a Matilda Pennington. She's insisting on seeing you. She says she's your mother." My blood turned to ice. She was here, in my building, in Baltimore. "She is not to be allowed up, Marcus, under any circumstances." "Yes, ma'am, that's what we told her, but she's becoming hysterical. She's shouting that her daughter is being held against her will. She's making a scene in the lobby." The final play. The public, hysterical, worried mother rescue. Right on schedule. "Marcus," I said, my voice so cold it surprised me. "She is not my mother. She is a harasser. Call building security and have her escorted from the premises. If she refuses, call the Baltimore PD. Right away, Ms. Pennington." I stood up and walked to my office window, which overlooked the street-level entrance plaza. 5 minutes later, I saw it. Matilda, her expensive coat clutched around her, being physically led out of the building by 2 uniformed security guards. She was weeping, putting on the performance of her life. "My daughter! My baby! What have you done to her?" She saw me. I don't know how, but she looked up right at my 30th floor window. Our eyes met. Her face, crumpled in fake tears, instantly changed. The moment she saw me watching, safe and untouched, her expression contorted into one of pure, unadulterated hatred, a mask slipping to reveal the skull beneath. I didn't flinch. I just stood there watching as they put her in a taxi. I turned back to my desk. I picked up the phone and dialed Juliana. "She just ambushed me at my office," I said, the hysterical mother routine. "It's their last move," Juliana said. "They're desperate. They know they're cornered. Good. I've already filed. We're setting the meeting. It's time to end this." A week later, I was in a sterile, high-rise conference room that smelled like expensive carpet and faint coffee. It wasn't my office. It was the office of Sylvia, the lead litigator Juliana had brought in. Sylvia was a shark in a silk blouse with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. I sat at the head of the massive, polished table. In front of me was my evidence binder. It was no longer 9 pages. It was 9 inches thick. It contained 1. My rebuilt spreadsheet of the $57,600. 2. My bank statements showing the withdrawals. 3. the complete scanned file of the $85,000 fraudulent loan. 4. A preliminary forensic handwriting analysis of the forged signature, confirming it was Roland's. 5. Screenshots of Matilda's entire smear campaign. 6. Transcripts of the voicemails from the flying monkeys. 7. A copy of the cease and desist letter from Huxley and Associates. 8. The official security report from my office lobby detailing Matilda's hysterical ambush. "Are you ready for this, Clarissa?" Sylvia asked, adjusting her glasses. "I've been ready my entire life," I said. Sylvia nodded. "They're on the line. Roland, Matilda, and their attorney from Huxley. Leo has been subpoenaed as a witness. He's on a separate, muted line until I call for him." She pressed the speakerphone button. A red light blinked. "This is Sylvia Reynolds, representing Clarissa Pennington. This conference call is being recorded. We have Mr. and Mrs. Roland Pennington and their counsel, Mr. Davies, on the line, correct?" "This is all completely unnecessary," Roland's voice boomed, oily and authoritative, the voice that used to make me shrink. "We should be discussing this as a family, not with a battery of lawyers." "All further correspondence will be documented, Roland," I said. My voice was flat, final. "Any discussion happens through our attorneys. I will not engage in unrecorded conversations." There was a sharp intake of breath on their end. They hadn't expected me to speak. "Clarissa, sweetheart, please." Matilda's voice thick with practiced vulnerability. The tears were already flowing. "We've always supported you. We love you. Remember when we helped you with your first apartment in Charlotte? That lovely down payment?" I didn't answer. I just looked at Sylvia. Sylvia slid a document from the binder. "Mrs. Pennington, you're referring to the $2,500 check from September 2018? Yes, we've always helped her," Matilda cried. "Excellent," Sylvia said, her voice smooth as glass. "Because we have Exhibit B, Miss Pennington's trust fund statement from 3 days later. It shows a $2,500 withdrawal made by the trustee, Roland Pennington, for trustee expenses. It seems you didn't give Clarissa money for her apartment. You just redirected her own inheritance and called it a gift." Dead silence. The performance had just been canceled. This is slander," Mr. Davies, their lawyer, finally sputtered. "Mr. Pennington has been a pillar of the Arden Hills community for—" "Save it," Sylvia cut him off. "Let's move on to the more recent items." "Mr. Pennington," Sylvia continued, "you sent my client a cease and desist letter, alleging she was making fabricated statements. Is that correct?" "My daughter, she's unwell," Roland said, trying to regain his footing. "She's jealous of her brother. She's confused." "Is she?" I said, leaning toward the speakerphone. "Let's review the timeline of my confusion. Let's start with June 15, 2017, a $5,000 transfer from my savings, labeled Family Emergency. The same day, Leo posted photos from the start of his European discovery trip. "That's absurd," Roland blustered. March 28, 2019, I continued, my voice gaining strength. An $8,000 transfer for Mom's medical bills. 2 days later, a new LLC for Leo's first app was registered with an $8,000 capital investment. "This is conjecture. You have no proof," their lawyer shouted. "And then," I said, my voice dropping, "there's the $10,500 from Grandmother Evelyn's inheritance. The insurance forms you had me sign, Dad, the ones that were actually a loan guarantee." "A complete fabrication," Roland roared. "Is it?" Sylvia's voice was sharp. "Because that loan, which you guaranteed with Clarissa's money, defaulted. We have the bank records." "This is outrageous." "You're right. It is," I said. "It's outrageous that you stole $7,600 from me. It's outrageous that you waged a public smear campaign to paint me as unstable to cover your tracks. It's outrageous that you, Mom, ambushed me at my office and faked a hysterical breakdown for my colleagues to see." "We were worried," Matilda shrieked. "You were performing," I snapped. just like you're performing now, but the show's over. I nodded at Sylvia. Mr. Davies, Mr. Pennington, Sylvia said, her voice suddenly devoid of all courtroom civility. Let's stop wasting time. We have the complete file for an $85,000 business loan from 3 months ago, taken from First National, for an LLC named Pennington Developments. A loan, she paused, taken out in Clarissa Pennington's name, using her Social Security number without her knowledge. The silence on the other end was absolute. It was so quiet I could hear the air hiss from the speaker. We also have, Sylvia continued, a forensic handwriting analysis from a court-certified expert confirming the signature on the loan application is a forgery, and that it is a 99.9% match for the known handwriting of Mr. Roland Pennington. That's not possible, their lawyer stammered. He'd clearly been kept in the dark on this. My client, Roland, what is she talking about? It's a lie, a deep fake. She faked it. Roland was screaming now, the mask of the calm patriarch completely gone, revealing the terrified, cornered con man beneath. A lie, Sylvia said? That's a very serious accusation. Which brings us to our witness. Mr. Leo Pennington, are you on the line? Yes, I'm here. Leo's voice was small. Mr. Pennington, Sylvia said, can you please confirm the origin of the file you sent my client on the evening of November 18th? I found it. In my father's office safe. I scanned it. He did it. He signed her name. I'm looking at the original right now. Leo! Roland's roar was animalistic. You traitor, you ungrateful snake. I gave you everything. You gave me her money. Leo's voice cracked, but then it hardened. You lied to me. You used her to fund me, and then you used her to commit a felony. You were going to ruin her. You were always jealous. Matilda suddenly hissed, her tears gone, replaced by pure venom. You were always jealous of your brother's success, Clarissa. This whole vindictive, disgusting display is because you could never be him. She's right, I said, my voice quiet. I could never be him, because I'm not a thief, and I'm not a liar. Sylvia held up a hand. Mr. Pennington, Mr. Davies, here's our position. We have undisputed evidence of serial wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and forgery. These are federal crimes. We are prepared to walk this binder to the U.S. Attorney's Office this afternoon. What? What do you want? The lawyer, Davies, asked. His voice was a whisper. He knew he'd lost. He knew his client was ruined. I took a deep breath. This was it. Here are my terms, I said, and my voice did not shake. 1. Full, immediate financial restitution for the $57,600, plus the $10,500 inheritance, with 10% compound interest calculated from the date of each theft. That's outrageous, Roland muttered. 2. You, Roland, will assume 100% of the $85,000 fraudulent loan. It will be removed from my name and my credit report within 48 hours, or the file goes to the DA. I don't care if you have to sell that house to do it. 3. A binding, permanent no-contact agreement. You, Roland, and you, Matilda, will never contact me again. Not by phone, not by email, not through flying monkeys, and not by showing up at my office. Any violation will trigger a $100,000 penalty per incident. 4, I continued, a public retraction. Matilda will post on all her social media a clarification that I am not, in fact, unwell, but that I have moved for a career promotion and that any family misunderstandings have been privately resolved. You will undo the smear you started. And 5? Sylvia prodded gently. And 5, I said. Leo gets to choose. He can be one of them, or he can start being his own man. But if he stays tied to them, he's part of the no contact. I'm out, Leo said, his voice clear. I'm out. I'll pay you back, C. The money you didn't know you gave me. I'll pay it all back. That's between you and your conscience, Leo, I said. These are my terms for them." The line was silent. I could hear Roland's heavy, ragged breathing. I could hear Matilda quietly sniffling, her fake tears replaced by real ones. The performance was over. The audience had left the theater. "Mr. Davies," Sylvia said, "you have 1 hour to advise your clients." "A settlement agreement is being emailed to you right now. If it is not signed and returned with proof of the loan transfer by 5 p.m., my next call is to the FBI. Roland started to bluster. "You can't. You wouldn't. I'm your father." "My father," I said, "wouldn't have stolen from me for 8 years. My father wouldn't have burned evidence. My father wouldn't have committed a felony in my name to save his own skin." I leaned forward. "The accounts are settled, Roland." I nodded to Sylvia. She disconnected the call. I sat back, the silence of the conference room flooding in. The weight of my entire life, the crushing burden of being not good enough, too sensitive. The problem. It all just lifted. It evaporated. I looked down at my hands. They were perfectly still. I wasn't the scapegoat. I wasn't the crazy one. I was the one who had survived. I was the one who had won. 6 months later, the light in our Baltimore apartment felt different. It was warmer. Our walls were no longer bare. They were covered in art we'd picked out together, in photos of our life. The centerpiece, on the wall by the door, was a framed photo from our wedding. Mason and I had gotten married on a clear, cold day at the Baltimore harbor. It wasn't a big wedding. It was small, and it was ours. In the photo, Mason was looking at me, not the camera, his eyes crinkling at the corners. My new boss, Laura, was there, cheering. Dr. Price was there, smiling discreetly from the back row. My chosen family. "The new scholarship applications are in," I called out. Mason walked in, loaded down with groceries. The committee approved all 5. "The Evelyn Monroe Fund strikes again," he said, kissing my forehead. "Your grandmother would be so proud, Clarissa." I had used the settlement money, every last dime of it, to start a foundation in my grandmother's name. It provided financial literacy workshops and self-defense grants for young women in difficult family situations. My settlement had been paid in full. Roland and Matilda had to sell the Arden Hills house, the monument to tradition, to cover the restitution and the fraudulent loan. I heard from Juliana that they'd downsized to a small condo, and Roland's pillar of the community reputation was in tatters. I sat at my desk, reviewing the flyer for my next workshop. Financial Boundaries: How to Protect Your Future. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a new friend, someone I'd met in Baltimore. "Spin class at 6? I smiled and texted back, "Absolutely." A simple, uncomplicated friendship built on mutual respect. It felt revolutionary. Teaching the workshops healed something in me. I was taking the worst parts of my past and turning them into armor for other people. I was giving them the tools I'd had to build from scratch while under fire. "Sometimes I still expect to feel their absence," I admitted to Mason, leaning against the kitchen counter as he unpacked, "like a missing limb, a wound." "And?" he asked, handing me an apple. "And it's not, it's just clarity." I took a bite. "It's like I spent 30 years looking through a smudged, filthy window, and now I can finally see the sky." Mason smiled. "Your chosen family cleans up pretty well." I thought of the wedding, of Laura's heartfelt toast, of my new colleagues who had celebrated with me, and I thought of Leo. He had come. He'd stood in the very back, alone, wearing an ill-fitting suit. He'd looked smaller, but he was there. After the ceremony, he'd approached me, his hands stuffed in his pockets. "It was beautiful, Clarissa. You look happy." "I am, Leo." He'd handed me a cashier's check. "It's the first payment for the money. I'm working 2 jobs. I'll pay it all back. I promise." "Thank you, Leo," I'd said, taking it. Our reconnection was fragile. It was a tiny, newborn thing, navigating a minefield. but it was real. He was trying. He was the only one who had ever said, "I'm sorry," and actually meant it. That evening, I sat at my desk. The folder from Matilda, Evidence Phase 1D, was buried deep in my digital archives. I never looked at it. It no longer had any power. I opened the leather-bound journal Mason had given me, my healing journal. The early pages were a storm of anxiety, nightmares, and panic attacks. The new pages were different. They were about my promotion, about the workshop's success, about a quiet weekend with my husband. I wrote a new entry. I no longer apologize for my boundaries. I used to think no was a selfish word. Now I know it's a sacred one. What I once saw as weakness, demanding to be treated with respect, I now understand is my greatest strength. Grandmother Evelyn taught me that dignity is non-negotiable and that boundaries are the foundation of self-love. In claiming those truths, I finally inherited what really matters, not her money, but her wisdom. My worth was never measured in dollars. It was never measured by my parents' approval or my brother's success. It was always measured in courage, and today my account is finally, truly settled. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.